sometimes you just need to look yourself in the mirror. And if you're on social media, certainly on YouTube, there is this hustle culture, whether it be Gary Vee or folks like Ryan Pineda, Grant Cardone, that are really highlighting the glory of being an entrepreneur. I unfortunately have never identified as an entrepreneur. It's never really clicked with me. I I was a good employee. I went to school, got a good job, hit my goals, tried to climb the corporate ladder. So I wanted to have a discussion with someone else who may be an entrepreneur or may be an employee and talk about the difference because I think there is a huge difference between being a natural entrepreneur versus an employee. And I think there are more quote unquote employees than entrepreneurs, but maybe I'm wrong. Anna, let's talk.
Awesome. This is a great discussion. And I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear you, say this too, because I will say this. I mean, we're trained when we go through school to be an employee. Hands down. You're trained
Hands
how
down.
to, handle tasks and learn and create new skills. But generally you're taught that so that you can be a good citizen and a good employee in some company. You're taught very few entrepreneurial skills in high school and even in college. You might learn, you might take a management class or an accounting or a finance class that teaches you how to analyze the books of a business. If you get an MBA, maybe you'll learn a little bit more about entrepreneurship, but we're taught how to become employees. And most people are employees. And most people do not escape the rat race of, the employee world until they're 65 and they decide to retire. Some investors like you and I can decide to kind of go out and add a side hustle. Usually it starts with a side hustle. Very few people start out and go, you know what? I'm not going to college. I'm not going to be an employee. I'm going to start my own business. There's very few that do. More and more, now, and especially in the younger crowd with the FIRE movement, financial freedom, retirement early. And I love that there's more of an entrepreneurial spirit that says, I kind of want to do it differently. I want to pave my own path. But what people don't tell you for that path is that it comes with a different set of challenges and stresses and heartaches and failures before you usually create success. And so being an employee allows you to say, I'm going to create some knowledge, I'm going to get some skills, and I'm going to go work for someone else, do something that I really, hopefully, really love and enjoy. And I'm comfortable with the amount that they're paying me to do that. And a lot of people, Michael, can be really happy as employees. I was very happy to be an employee for a really long time until I had my first child. Then after I had my first child, I was like, wait a second, I want to be home with my child. And I can't do that anymore because if I give up working for someone else, my paycheck stops. So I have to figure something else out. So the first time I really thought, I don't want to be an employee, I want to figure something else out, we decided on entrepreneurship. My husband would start his own chiropractic business and I would help him run that. I can tell you that having moved from being an employee, now I did both at the same time. I worked full time and then I started help my husband with his startup business. And then after a couple of years in the great financial crisis, we decided, oh, let's also start being real estate investors. And that's entrepreneurial in some ways. It's got some similarities to entrepreneurship. In some, being an investor is very, very different. But it opened my eyes to how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. So for people that sell to you, if you want a better life, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to get out of the rat race. You have to quit being an employee. I think that does a disservice to a lot of people that really love their job and they need the stability and the certainty of a certain paycheck for a while so that they can accumulate money to even think about starting a business or investing wisely. Being an entrepreneur is really, really hard, and it takes a different kind of skill set, a different kind of mentality, a different kind of grit and determination, and being able to, to be uncomfortable and be comfortable with failure, because most entrepreneurs fail a couple of times at least, probably a few or handful or more before they really get it right. So it's a different, totally different animal. And it's not right for being an entrepreneur is not right for everybody. It's hard. But being an employee will make sure that you have no optionality to quit working until you retire and you've created enough investments to do so. So there's good and bad, but I was a
Yeah.
very good employee. didn't really think about being an entrepreneur, became a decent entrepreneur. I have several of my own businesses, but I still kind of like something in between. I like being an
Yeah.
investor more than an entrepreneur or an
Yeah.
employee.
I think that's where, because this bothered me for a long time, was like, you're either an employee or an entrepreneur. And I have always known that I'm not an entrepreneur. Um, Never thought about running my own show, probably would be horrible at it. You know, it is a different animal, different stress level. And I don't know how to do it, right? I mean, it's just, I don't, what do you do, right? But there is that third category that you just brought up, investor.
Mhm.
And when I step back and I now listen to Grant Cardone or Pineda or Gary Vee, really what I hear them saying, and some of this is reading between the lines, but it's, hey, go do something that you're uniquely good at, produce revenue, have all of your expenses, and at the bottom of it becomes discretionary income that you stack and buy real estate.
Yes.
That's exactly what I did as an employee. My job,
Yes.
again, I chose to have a commission-based job, was to go out and, eat what I killed, as we say in the business, right? If you sell it, you get paid. If you don't eat. And that's what we did. Is I tried to create as much revenue, income, right? W-2 income, pay my taxes, 401k, insurance, blah, blah, blah. And then I tried to have money at the end that I could buy real estate.
Right.
So I think, like, some of us, being the entrepreneur is the right answer. But I am willing to bet most, meaning 50% or more, and I'm going to guess 70% or more, should focus on being great employees, but realizing it's a 10-year duration. I'm going to go bust my ass in a job that I hate because it pays me really well, but then I'm going to live below my means. I'm going to stack paper. I'm going to become really, really good at something. I'm going to invest in that, and then that's going to pay my existence. I think you can do both. I just think being an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur gets all the sexy flash.
Absolutely. And you and I did both, right? We created our wealth while working full time, living
Mhm.
below our means and working to expand our means through investing. And our chosen
Exactly.
path was investing in real estate, right? And we invested in other things as well. But the key is, how can you create enough income to satisfy your needs, be satisfied with less for a while you redirect some of what you're making from your income into investing. That's really the key. The key isn't how are you making your income? Are you making it working for someone else or working for yourself? That isn't the key question. The key question is, how much do you have left of your income that you're then choosing to invest in creating more income coming in, so that work becomes less and less required and more optional, i.e., you create financial freedom. What I can tell you, again, because I've lived through both the employee and the entrepreneur side, is that the number of hours that I had to work as an employee to make six figures was substantially less than the number of hours my husband and I had to put into being an entrepreneur to make the same amount of money. So it can take, oftentimes, to become an entrepreneur, the statistic, and I haven't tracked it annually, but generally speaking, about 95% of entrepreneur businesses fail in the first 10
Mhm.
years, a huge amount in the first 5, a huge amount in the next 10. So you're giving your life oftentimes 70, 80 hours a week, like we did, for a decade before you really have a lot of extra income coming in and a lot more time freedom. If you build it, and you build it with employees that make your time less and less optional in the business. Anytime you start a business, you really generally are a sole proprietor. And so,
Mhm.
in that kind of quadrant, you've got employee, you've got a sole proprietor, you've got an entrepreneur that has a sustainable business with other people, and then you're an investor is the fourth one. And so most of you start out, it's all your time required. So if you don't have extra money coming in, because it's going to take you years to really develop consistent income, and you also don't have a lot of time to go create a side hustle or invest, then you could actually be doing yourself a disservice, Michael, versus working at a really well-paying job that you enjoy, working your 40 hours a week, taking some of that extra because you're going to live below your means, and then going and spending another 10 hours a week investing or creating a side hustle business. So I would tell most people, unless you're one of these that's born that's like, I'm a lone ranger, I'm going to do it myself, I'm going to pave the world, I'll never be behind a desk, I'll never work for a company. If you've got that spirit at a young age, great, go try it. You can afford to lose a lot more when you don't have much to lose when you're young, right? So start that entrepreneur thing. But if you think that the entrepreneurial way is this rah, easy life, escape the rat race, I know more entrepreneurs who are enslaved to their time and their business 70, 80 hours a week that therefore never become really wealthy. Or if they had taken the easier 40-hour-a-week job and then saved that extra money to invest and buy real estate and buy cash flow in the future, they probably would have gotten further faster. And that's just something, these guys don't really talk much about, is how hard it is to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think for most people, if you, this is an important belief to me. Again, I think financial freedom and earning that over a decade is well worth it. We are both living examples of that. And most of the people on my channel are living examples of that. But what I want people to realize, yeah, the job and just over broke and, it's hard. I hate my job, all the stuff we hear about. If you flip the script and look at your job as a 10-year vehicle that spits off disposable income that then you go invest in other stuff, that those things produce cash that will allow you to leave the job in a decade, you're going to be alive in 10 years, whether you like it or not,
Right.
is my hope. So invest like it. And
Yes.
I think most people, certainly more than 50%, probably more than 70, if you just were comfortable being an employee, but using it as a tool for the rest of your life, I think your hate for the job would go away. Because they're like, yeah, I'm one day closer to being done. I'm one day closer to being done.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And there were years that I really hated my job too. But it's not that I hated what I did. It's that I so wanted to be home with my baby that every day I had to work, I was just like, oh, I just want, to be over this. But again, you have to have that mindset. My mindset was, oh, in a year or two, we're going to be, doing really well as an entrepreneur and having our own business. And then we had the great financial crisis, and that kind of wiped away, those dreams, and it wiped away, quite frankly, my 401k. But it was because I had some rental property that I had this aha that I just need to create extra cash flow, and I could do that by buying property. Again, I thought that it would take 2 or 3 years. We're all kind of sold this get rich quick, it's easy, but the reality is, for most people that I know that are wealthy, it took them at least a decade to do it in
It's 10 years.
any way you cut it, and so yes, I love this idea of saying this is a 10-year plan, that for 10 years, I'm going to live below my means. I cannot stress that enough. No matter how much you make, you don't let lifestyle creep go up. You live below your means. You have extra. You pay yourself first to invest in things that are going to create income while you sleep, right? That's the goal, is that in 10 years, you've got enough money that's coming in, whether you want to think of yourself as an investor, a solopreneur, whatever. For most people, Michael, it's going to, it could be something easy. Buying your first rental. I hear this complaint all the time. I'm too busy. I have a job. I have kids. We have sports. Well, we did too. We had 4 kids, a business, a job, and sports, right? But we made that commitment that, yes, it might be hard, but you can choose your hard. And the reality is there's different ways to do it. If you are the kind of person that says, I can't take any more stress, I can't create a business on the side, I can't manage property on the side, then you buy a cash flowing property and you pay a property manager to manage it for you at first. Some cash flow left over after professionally managed, single family house or quad or whatever it is better than you not doing anything. So don't let I'm not an entrepreneur or I don't have time to be a landlord keep you from investing. Do it passively, just like you would put money in the stock market, put money in a property, pay someone to professionally manage it. Then over time, as your life becomes hopefully less stressful and chaotic, you've built this portfolio. And again, for us, it's real estate. For some people, it might be other things that they're investing in. But you've created this to where every year you've got more and more cash flow coming in, and you can decide to be more or less active. And another thing that kind of drives me nuts on this same topic is that the only way to get really good and have more is you have to create a bit, like, you can't think like an investor, you have to think like an entrepreneur. And in some ways that's true. Like, we have a portfolio, they're a business. Like, having real estate is a business. You've got acquisitions, you've got, operations, you've got handling tenants, you've got the financial part. Like, it is being an entrepreneur, but it's more like a solopreneur. And for some people, being a solopreneur is the best thing. For other people, scaling and creating a company and having an acquisitions person and an asset manager and a property manager and an accountant and a bookkeeper, like, that is good if they have that entrepreneur mindset. But for some people, it creates way more stress than it's worth. And it would be easier for them to continue to be an investor, pay a property management company to do everything, or be a solopreneur, self-manage your portfolio because you're really good at it, but you only really have yourself that you're accountable to. So I think my big takeaway when I hear this question is, don't let yourself think, I'm not this, so that's an excuse not to invest, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm not an entrepreneur, so I guess I'm just going to always be an employee and I need to give up the idea of financial freedom. You can be an employee, do what you love and what you're good at, and it's going to pay you the most for doing what you love. And either an employee or an entrepreneur, if you're doing what you love and you're making money and you learn how to have extra every month, then you invest it in stuff that's going to pay you cash flow, you're winning. You're winning.
Yeah,
You don't have
you're
to
winning.
compare yourself and
Yeah.
become something that you're not. Now, with that same, on the other side of that coin, I would say that it is really good to challenge yourself to think bigger than what you're thinking now. So if you're not ever thinking about how can I create more, how can I do more, how can I improve as a person, you've got to be able to expand your mind. And if you want to expand your means, you have to learn, you have to be committed to, I'm going to learn to do what I do better. I'm going to get more efficient. And so I will say this, even though I have some businesses, several of them are a solopreneur, and I it that way. I've done lots of, let's scale. I've gone to conferences and masterminds that are just pushing scale, 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 hire more people, get yourself out. But for some people, that creates additional stressors and money stressors, people stressors that they don't want and have time for. When I was younger, if I had started becoming, an entrepreneur in real estate, doing big multifamily deals, for example, when I was 25 and didn't have kids, I would have probably scaled big. But now I'm at a phase where it's like, what the beauty of financial freedom is? You get to decide, what do I want? And if I don't want that, I have no guilt in not doing that. But challenge yourself by reading books that entrepreneurs read.
Yeah.
Tools for Titan is a really good, book that I have my son reading on, tidbits from very wealthy entrepreneurs, CEOs, etc. Dan Sullivan has some great, books on just who, not how. How do I hire out what I don't want to do? Whether I'm an employee, whether I'm a solopreneur, whether I have a big company, whatever. Gap in the gain, challenging your mindset. Are you living in the ho-hum, or are you looking at, the future is bright, today is bright and the future is brighter. So challenge yourself with books and podcasts and things that are going to help you to think, am I settling? Am I made for more? Do I have the desire to do it harder or differently? And then be comfortable, be real with yourself. Like, what do you want? What do you like? What do you not want? It's okay not to want that, but don't keep that from helping you to get ahead financially and becoming wealthy. Because the reality is, many people become wealthy by many different means. And it's all about, do what you love. Give yourself a lot of time freedom. Know the value of your time and what's going to make you more money with less time. And then that should kind of be, go along with your personality. But if you can learn to pay yourself first, invest in the future early and often, and live below your means, you win. You win.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, what really made me feel comfortable is, and again, this is just how I translated all of this. The goal of an entrepreneur is to create excess capital so you can become an investor. And what I told myself after thinking
True.
about it for years was, my goal as an employee was to do the same thing. And it was comfortable. It was less stressful. I was good at it, right? There were clear opportunities for me. And I think most people are comfortable being employees. So if you're watching this, you're an employee, you're debating to become an entrepreneur, and it just doesn't feel right, it's okay. You can become financially free. The steps are the same.
Yes.
Create increase your disposable income, become very good at something, have a 10-year plan, and I like your chances. Anna, where can people find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on this show every week. You can find me on social media at Anna Kelly REI Mom, and for real estate coaching and consulting, AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much.